guys, welcome back. My name's Erin. If you don't already know me, I'm the owner of the Studio Candle Company out of Two Harbors, Minnesota. If you don't know where that is, don't feel bad, most people don't. But to give you reference of where I'm at when I share this stuff, I am very, very far north in northern Minnesota. I'm not near any big cities. I do travel to shows in big cities, and typically that's like 3 hours away. So I'm pretty far in the middle of nowhere. So this is not like numbers for LA or anywhere like that. But today we are sharing numbers for Minnehaha Falls Art Fair. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. Getting into how I liked the show, what I thought about everything, how it was laid out, how much money I made at that show. And if you're new here and you haven't followed along with the On the Road vlog, you can check that out. I'll link it. It's basically me sharing what it's like to go to all of these vendor events, art fairs, kind of travel shows. And that way you can have a reference of what I'm talking about when I share these numbers, size-wise and all that kind of stuff. But back in the beginning of July, I went to Minnehaha Falls for their art fair. Minnehaha Falls is like a regional park somewhere between St. Paul and Minneapolis. So down in that area, if you're familiar with Minnesota, that's like the bigger city area. That is about a 3-hour drive for me. Maybe 3.5. So I typically would drive 3.5 hours, stay down there for the weekend, do the show, and then come home. So this is not something near me necessarily, but overall, that's typically where I'm finding all of these larger shows, is going down to these larger cities. So this isn't something like local for me, but we're going to kind of go over this. So originally, this is how I wrote everything out for you, because you can see a lot of different places on YouTube and Instagram and all these things where they share, oh, I made $30,000. That's fine and dandy. Maybe you made $30,000 in sales, but you personally did not make $30,000. And so I think that's where a lot of like this Instagram wow comes from, where people are hearing, oh, this person made $15,000. I don't know what they're doing that I'm not. Okay, that person might have made $15,000 in sales, but are they telling you their actual profit that they took home? Those numbers are significantly different. You can hear people, especially on YouTube with their ad revenue and all that, saying, I made $100,000, but they're not actually keeping all of that money. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But first off, this is how I kind of wrote it down. This is like my jumbled thought process mess on all the different numbers that I got. And basically all of these numbers are coming because I used a Square account. So that's my card processing system, which keeps track of all my inventory, my card purchases, my cash purchases, everything. It's like my whole cash register system. And this is not sponsored by them. Shout out to Square. If you want to sponsor me, that'd be great. But I'm just telling you guys, that's what I use. I have this Square register right here. Just hook up my iPad to it, which is super convenient. All of my inventory I input by myself, and I got a little barcode reader to make myself more efficient during checkout and stuff like that. But that's where all these numbers are coming from, is because Square calculates all of it for me. If you don't have a Square account, or you're not keeping track like that for your bookkeeping, this is going to be a lot harder for you to figure out. You can figure it out for sure, but I would highly recommend getting Square or something of the likes that does all the numbers for you, because that's really going to be the easiest, especially come tax time. And you don't want to get in trouble with that. So as I was saying, this is kind of how I used to write it down on my little jumbled sheet of paper. And this was a little bit messy for me, and I was like kind of getting my numbers confused and stuff. And so yesterday I went out and made this little template. And it basically is just like a breakdown of exactly how you can calculate how much profit you made. And then on the back, I left room for like a summary of the show, and where you can take notes. So if you're going to go back to that kind of show, or things you would want to change, you can put that in your notes. And so if this is helpful for somebody else, obviously I made this for myself because this was not working. But if you do need something like this, I just made like a blank printout, and I'll link that, because you guys can just download the template for free and just print it out yourself. Maybe that'll help somebody else stay organized. But I left room on the side here if you wanted to 3-hole punch it and like make yourself a binder just for shows. That's my plan of trying to get organized. But I will link this. I just created this free printout. You guys can have it. And then maybe you can follow along and do exactly the same kind of thing. So we're going to jump right into it. Basically, this is what Square looks like. And I'm sorry, but I don't know if it's going to show up on the screen or not. So I'll include screenshots if it doesn't. But when you go into Square, you can pick like the dates that you did stuff. So this is the week of just this show. And it gives you all of these different kind of numbers, your net total, all your different numbers there. And it's super convenient. It keeps track of everything that you sold, all the different products you sold. If you're putting them in correctly from the start, it's going to be way helpful, especially if you're putting in your cost of goods with each product. It's automatically going to calculate how much you spent to make all these products and all these other things. So I think I'm going to go in more depth on that kind of stuff for like maybe a small business course of like how you can set up your own Square. So if you're interested in that, just let me know in the comments and I'll get on like trying to figure out how to show you guys all the breakdown of how to set it up. That way you can do this super easy right from the start and not have to go back and do it again. But let's get into it. Obviously you're not going to probably be able to see this sheet, so I'll read off of this and then I'll just put it on the screen here for you guys. But my overall income for this show was, see, and I didn't even write that down. Look at me. I took all the fees out of it already. So it's just over $6,900. So I made almost $7,000 in sales. That's not profit. That's not what I took home. But someone could go on Instagram and say, I made $7,000. Yeah, I did. I took in $7,000 in payments, but I didn't make $7,000. So to go over it, I started with my cash column here. So on this, you're going to see your income area here, your expenses, and then the costs. That'll be broken down on there. So you're going to have your cash income, your card income. I put Venmo on there because I use Venmo. And then I left a blank space in case you needed to fill something else in, like PayPal or whatever. Then I put the fees column there. So obviously with cash, you don't really have a fee for that. But with your card processing, you could input the fee amount that you paid right there, your Venmo fee, whatever. And then you could subtract that from your actual number and get your total that you would pay from that. So like my card, I had $174.33 in processing fees just from people using their credit cards or debit cards. So my total amount of money that I took in just from credit and debit offering that service is going to be $6,131.04. So the majority of the people down in the big cities pay with debit and credit cards. They just do. And I found, I went to another show up in Ely, Minnesota, and like $3,000 of it was cash versus this one where only $675.14 was cash. So you can kind of tell based on location wise where your show is, how much you're going to bring in cash versus card wise. Also down in the cities, there's a lot of people that don't even carry cash. So I would have lost several sales if I didn't offer card as an option, card, Venmo, anything like that. Because they just don't carry cash. It's not like a necessity there. Where I live in the middle of nowhere, there are some stores that are still cash only. So that's like a regular thing for me up here. But it's broken down that way where you can do cash, card, Venmo, add whatever else you need, put in those fees, and get your total amount after you have paid all of those processing fees. That is going to be your net total that you took in as an amount of money. That's not what you made, but that ends up being your net total after fees. And then you come down here, I put in like food, gas, lodging, parking, because at this particular show, I had to pay on-site parking at the meter, and it was super expensive. It was like $45 to pay for parking, which was kind of a bummer, but it also saved myself time walking, and I work by myself. So when I'm at these shows, I typically like to keep my vehicle and all my extra material and stuff like that really close by so that if I do have to run real quick, I can ask a vendor to watch my booth and then run to my car. But those are the things I put there: gas, food, lodging, parking. Left a couple spots open in case you in particular have something different you want to put in there. And then costs down here would include like your show fee, how much it costs you to be in the show. If you're in smaller towns, a lot of the shows are free to be in, or like $20 for a booth. The shows that I am doing in this size show, when you're hearing numbers, are not free. In this particular show, I paid $1,500 just to be in this show. So these are not little shows. They're 100,000, 200,000 people kind of shows. But then taxes, which you have to pay unless you have non-taxable goods. So we could get into that in a different video too. Non-taxable goods are typically things like food, sometimes clothing, depending on the state you're in, but that is going to vary state to state. So you might want to look that up on your department revenue website. Here in Minnesota, I believe it's just like clothing and food items. But I sell taxable goods. So you're going to have to fill out for all of these big shows. In Minnesota, it's called an ST19. And it's a form that basically states, hey, I'm planning on making sales where they're going to be paying tax for it, which means I have to pay tax. The way it works is I am not paying tax on the goods that I'm making, but as soon as the final customer purchases this, they're paying sales tax. I'm holding on to all that sales tax. I collected it and then paying it to the state on all these people's behalf, basically is what it is. So that is not my money. That's the state's money that I'm automatically collecting for them. So when you go to a show and they say, do you have an ST19? You're filling out all your tax ID information, all that kind of stuff, and saying, yes, I'm either selling taxable goods, or you can put on there, I'm not selling taxable goods like food or something like that, just so they know, hey, all of these sales she's making, she doesn't owe us anything, that kind of a thing. So I put my taxes on here, and then the product cost of good. That is how much it cost me to make all of the product that was on my shelf that sold. So The way I do that is with Square. There's no way I could calculate that by myself. It would take hours and hours and hours, and it's not worth my time. So when I do my inventory system, I put in how much each unit costs. And then as I'm selling things, my inventory system tracks how many of each thing I sold, and it automatically calculates how much it cost me to make all of the products that I sold, which is so slick. Because obviously I can say that I made a whole bunch of money, but it cost me money to make this stuff. So I subtract that out of here so that I know how much profit I made, how much I took home in amount of money after I paid my taxes, my fees, how much it cost me to be there, how much it cost for my products, everything. This is the bottom amount of money that I actually physically get to keep. And then I did a little formula down here in case people are a little confused on how to calculate it. So you would start with your total one. You'd subtract, because that's how much income you took in. Then you'd subtract your expenses and subtract your costs right here, and that would get you your total profit. So on my example here, I will break down exactly what I made at Minnehaha Falls. That's down in the cities. I brought in $675.14 in cash. I got charged $174.33 in credit card processing fees through Square, which when you look at it, that's not that much, considering that left me with $6,131.04 in sales for cards. So that's a lot. I'm willing to pay $175 to be able to offer that service and make $6,000. Venmo, I only got charged a $2 fee because I don't really have that many people that do that option unless they forgot their card. And I took in $101.88 in Venmo. And so my total amount after taking out those fees was $6,730.73 that I took in. So then we get into the expenses. Food, I spent $70 for the weekend, and I write all that off. I'm obviously not going to write off if I went out with my friends and I went to some really fancy extravagant place. This is just necessary food that I ate while I'm at the show, and I run to the food truck and stuff like that. So anything directly business related, I'll put on my business card, and then I know how much I spent. Gas, I spent $171. Like I said, I drive a 1-ton diesel. I do have a 1-ton diesel that I drove to the last show, but I have a 1-ton 12-passenger van. So if you follow along in the on the road vlog, you'll see my setup. It's very large. It's not gas efficient, but I have a lot of kids that play hockey, so it's my general vehicle anyway. But I drove. And I wrote this down in my description area because you can keep notes on here too. I drove 387 miles for this show. So $171 in gas is to be expected with something like this because I haul my big, if you haven't seen my mobile studio, that's what I'm in right now. You can check that out on the road vlog too because it's a super cool setup where it's like a mobile retail store. But I drove 387 miles just to go to this show. So it cost me $171 in gas. Lodging was $0 because my cousin actually lives down in that area, so I stayed with them. Then parking, I paid $45 to park on site because it's a regional park. They have pay meters there, and there was nothing walkable from there that was going to make it worth it for me to save the $45. So I did pay $45 in that parking fee. So my overall expenses that category is $286. And that is not insanely bad for being there. I think, so setup was the same day for this event. So I was there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some events I set up on the day before Thursday, and I'm there for 4 days. So $300 overall is not bad, $286. But for the costs of what the actual show cost me, I paid $1,500, like I said, for the show fee because I pay for 3 booths. So when you're going to these vendor events, most of the time it's a 10 by 10 booth. Sometimes it's 12 by 12. I pay for 3 spots because I have my long trailer with the tailgate open so that it brings more traffic in. And so I do have to pay for 3 booths. I don't just pay for 1 and then get triple the size of everyone else. So when you're looking into, if you've been curious about my trailer setup, it does cost 3 times more than everyone else to be there. Also for this particular event, they don't typically offer trailer display parking kind of thing because they hadn't really seen anything like what I have because not really anyone has what I have. And so they were really curious and eager to have me in the show, but they were trying to find a way to accommodate it because they don't normally do triple booth. They can do double, but that's about it. And so actually for this event, I was a sponsor for the event. So that was kind of cool. The only thing I would say, it was a super organized event. Loved it. The park was awesome. The directors were awesome. But when they had brought me on, they said that I was a sponsor. And on their website, I was listed as a sponsor with my logo in the sponsor section. But aside from if you went on their website, and looked under who's sponsors, we really didn't get any promotion beyond like the regular vendor. So that would be my only downside, is that if they're going to market it as we're sponsors, then I would enjoy a little more publicity, that the fact that we're a sponsor instead of just a regular vendor thrown in with all the other vendors. Maybe a sign somewhere, or like something I can put on our booth that says sponsor of it. I don't know, just little things like that. Again, I don't really care. They were able to accommodate me and get me in, which was the cool part anyway. But if you're going to market it as I'm a sponsor, I would love to be recognized as a sponsor. That'd be cool. And then taxes. So taxes are the amount of money that I take in on every single sale, because all of my products are taxable goods. So I had to calculate, it was an 8.5% Minnesota sales tax, and that was $521.11. So again, that is money that I took in, but it is not my money. It's going straight to the state when I file my taxes, which I file quarterly. So that money is not part of the money that I made. So my product cost of good for this entire show, and on the back I put this little summary section because I like to see how much I sold. I had 257 sales. So that's 257 people that purchased things. Some of them purchased 1 candle, some of them purchased 4 candles, some purchased 8. So that's 257 individual people that made purchases from my store. The average sale amount was $25.68. And my profit margin was 83.8%, so that was really good. I'm working on trying to increase that a little by cutting my costs other places, but the overall amount that it cost me to make all of those products that I sold out of those 257 sales was $1,032.86. So that is how much it cost me to keep those products on my shelf for people to purchase. So my overall costs, the show fees, the taxes, and the product cost of goods, was $3,053.97. So you can see how things add up really quickly. When you've got $6,700 coming in, but you've just spent just over $3,000 to be at the show and to have the products, you can see how numbers get fudged a little bit, where people are going, oh, I made $10,000. Don't get me wrong. There are some shows I do make $10,000 in profit. This was not one of them. This is one of the first times I'd ever been down there for this kind of show. I thought it was going to go better than it did. I can't complain, because once I subtract all those things, my overall total profit was $3,390.76. So for being gone for 3 days, going down to the show after paying for absolutely everything, including taxes, I made almost $3,400. Not bad at all. I cannot complain about that. But given the size of the event compared to some of the other events I go to, I would have liked to do more based on what I know that I can do in sales wise, because there are some shows way closer to me that charge a lot less and I make double the amount of money. But I am trying to branch out to all these new shows, and I consider a lot of it marketing also, because I'm in these new markets of people that have not seen my trailer before, have not ordered from me before. It also brings a lot more opportunity for wholesale orders, which when you go back to taxes, you don't put tax on wholesale orders because they are not the final consumer. So like when I am pricing things for wholesale, they are purchasing it to resell to the final customer. If they were to pay me tax on that product and then their customer paid them tax on that product, the one product is now being charged double tax to the state. So that doesn't make any sense. So for wholesale, if you're looking to get into that, I can do a longer video about it, but I don't charge sales tax on wholesale orders because they're not the end customer. But for this kind of thing, I was counting it kind of as marketing because I'm meeting all these new people in this new market. I'm also expanding like to different areas. I wanted to try the show, and maybe it would have been like a super awesome one. I can't say it was like a blow it out of the water kind of show, but it was still a very good show, and it was a very easy show. They were very organized. So if you're looking for shows down in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, definitely check out Minnehaha Falls, especially if you only need one booth, because then at that point, I think it's like $450 or $500, something like that for a booth. So honestly, I think for that price, for the amount of people you get brought in, totally worth the price. And overall, it was a really good show. But again, if you want more in-depth on the actual show itself, you can check out my On the Road vlog, because I go over like going all the way down there, getting set up, my first impressions of it, kind of show you my crowd of people, and then all of like the behind the scenes things about that show itself. But these are just the numbers. So there you have it. If you need one of these printable worksheets, like I said, I'll link it. You can just download it for free because it's been super helpful keeping my brain not scattered. But most of my numbers come from Square. So I will do a video list of all the different things on how to set up your Square account right from the beginning, especially with your product cost of goods. That will save you so much time later down the road. But there you have it overall for this one weekend show. $3,390.76. Again, these are larger shows, so this is not a farmer's market. This is not like a free one-day event inside somewhere. This is an all weekend, drive a really long way, spend a lot of time going to these large shows kind of thing. So for reference, there's all those numbers, and I will get back to you guys because we are headed to the Blueberry Festival in Ely, Minnesota, and that one I know I did real well last year, so we'll see how that one goes.